in the midst of this. Or they're told that there's only one side in the midst of this. And if you're not on that side, you may not even really be a Christian. I think this is problematic in a lot of ways. And I think that we haven't really wrestled with this in a healthy way. And the enemy wins. This idea of culture war came from a book that came out in like 91, talking about, Nietzsche's views on, resentment and tension. And in this book, there's mention that people will be so diametrically opposed to each other's views that violence would ensue. Like people will think that I so much disagree with you that violence would ensue. And that's one of the things that I believe it's back to Cain and Abel. It's that I'm so upset at what's happening here that my only result is to eliminate you. What did Jesus do when he was persecuted? He said to pray for your enemies. He said, blessed are those who are persecuted for my name's sake. That's not what we're saying. We're saying curse those who persecute us.
Kill them.
Fight them. Go to war against them. And it makes us look crazy as the church when we're jumping on the bandwagon of a culture war. God has not called us to pick a team, right? He's called us to be a community within the chaos that points people to a different way. Like the challenge is that some of us believe that we're here on earth. The church is here on earth. And I don't know where you'll find this in scriptures. If you find it, let me know. Some of us believe that the church is here on earth to literally create a sustainable utopia on the planet. Like we're here to change this culture to a utopian Christian nation. I don't see that. Like Jesus didn't come to do that while he was here. But you will see in the scriptures that Jesus calls his church to look like him in the midst of the chaos, to be a picture of something distinct and alternative and challenging, but in a loving way. The Christian way is not to crush your enemies and to war against them. The Christian way is to invite, is to welcome. It's to say, hey, we don't agree, but let me show you a better way.
Well, doesn't that sound like what Charlie Kirk was doing?
Yeah, that's what he was trying to do.
Doesn't that sound like what his approach?
Yeah.
But I think Lecrae, as he goes on, he's falling into the same Christian nationalist trap, the seven mountains. I don't know if you know the seven mountain theology. Have you ever heard of that?
I don't know what that is.
Like occupying the seven mountains, education, medical, family, media, all these different. This is something that somebody had a vision about, and they talk about this a lot. But they take it. A lot of Christians like him that are more like he's more like reformed. Yeah, that's why he's saying so. That's the things he's saying is kind of lines up more with reform. Like that's the guy who died, MacArthur.
Okay,
right? More reform type. So they don't really believe in that kind of stuff. They think, oh, these Christians are trying to take over. That's what they believe, and that's not what they believe. So even what he's saying, he's kind of going into that. If you don't know how he sees things in his theology, you won't know that.
And and don't get me wrong, there are certain sects that do think that way. Like when you look at a Nick Fuentes or some of these more
far right,
far right groypers and these extremist views, they do believe that. But you can't try to pin that on everybody. There's
not many. Yeah. That's not an actual.
It's a straw man.
It's a very small minority.
It's a straw man argument, like you were saying earlier.
Right. So I just so when we were listening, we gotta know where he's coming from a little bit. Yeah. Because I agree with what he's saying, but then I also know where he comes from in his theology and his framing. Okay. So keeping that in mind.
Right.
Does he talk about the Islam takeover?
Yeah, we don't hear much about that. I don't think.
Is there a word for that? Islam nationalists?
Islamic. It's called Dearborn, Michigan.
There is a word for that. It's called jihad.
Yeah, that is true.
Jihad.
Yeah.
All right, let's keep going.
Let me extend to you the opportunity to see how this can be different. And I'm not saying there's not room to push back on things. The kingdom says, even if you're persecuted, you're blessed. The empire says, win the election or lose everything. Right? The kingdom says every tribe, every tongue, every nation will bow. The empire says, make everybody like us. The kingdom says we should unify. The empire says we need to be uniform. And when you're participating in a culture war, in the way that the culture is, you're acting like the empire and not like the kingdom. Right? I think we think prayer is for weaklings. I think we think prayer is this dismissive, uninvolved form of battle. When God himself says we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against spiritual. How do you fight demonic powers? What do you have? What do you think you can do? You need supernatural power to fight supernatural. You're going to have to call on the power of the Spirit, the power of God. So I think we dismiss prayer. Prayer is important. It's a
I agree with that 100%. Like even to the point where like when you're in conversation, even sometimes with Christians, and you say that like, yeah, we need to pray. It's almost like eye rolls. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
like
Because people don't even understand what that means.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't. They don't know that there's actual power there. There's you take it like, oh, you know, even the left says it, thoughts and prayers. You know, they always say thoughts and prayers. Like they don't know what it means.
They mock it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I agree with what he's saying there.
Very important part of the battle in this culture war that a lot of us are embroiled in. Like, how do we engage the culture war? We pray. We pray. Prayer transforms things. I'm a product of prayer. We speak truth. We don't water down the scriptures. We don't back away from what we know is true. Hey, we believe abortion is killing children. We say that. But we don't burn people at the cross because they disagree with us on it. We don't do that. We serve. Right? What do? What we're doing, unfortunately, is we're choosing sides in a culture war. Right? That's what we're doing. And I have to ask, are we supposed to? Right? Is that the way of Jesus? Should Christians be involved? Obviously, we should be involved in society and involved in decisions that affect our nation. But what exactly does that look like, and how do we go about it? Do we fight with the weapons of the empire? Do we smash our enemies? Or do we embody the kingdom of Jesus, who fights completely differently? You know, the kingdom of Jesus doesn't look like the left or the right, regardless of what people may say. It looks like Christ. You got Pilate, you know, who Jesus says, you know what, my kingdom's not of this world. Like, listen, if it were, my servants would fight, but this isn't my kingdom. I don't think we can say that. I think we struggle with saying my kingdom's not of this world, right? We're saying that, no, this nation is our kingdom in some senses. And I'm not saying you don't protect the nation and protect the people within it. What I am saying is that you cannot, the nation is the empire. You cannot exalt empire over nation. Empire wants uniformity. Kingdom wants unity. Empire.
I don't think that's true. That right there. Like, you can take, the way I see America is that a lot of its founding in terms of ideology is biblically based. The idea of freedom, free speech, these things are biblically based. The idea of defending yourself with arms, right?
Yeah.
Because that's biblically based. So my point is that whatever they in this nation, the foundations are there, and if they come from a place that you can bring it back to life, what does that mean? What does this actually mean? Or you can twist it and pervert it, and freedom and rights become something totally different. Then we're talking about trans rights. Yeah. Wait a minute, trans people have the same rights as us. So what are they talking about? They're not. It's not the same thing. It becomes perverted. It becomes corrupted. So when you want something to stay true, you have to seek the truth, right? Jesus said, "You are my if you abide in my word, you are my disciple. You'll know the truth. The truth will set you free." Right? Who the Son sets free is free in reality, or else your reality is going to become perverted. So this is where I don't agree with him, because if we don't have hope for this country in terms of God's showing us, this is what you can work with here. This is what I've given you. This is the places that, like, even think about Independence Day versus Juneteenth. If I'm not saying we can't acknowledge Juneteenth, but what I'm saying is, and I think this is where Charlie was, they're trying to replace it. A lot of people were trying to, like, that's not our Independence Day. But you don't understand what you're missing out on.
Or what you're rejecting.
Exactly. Well, if you're rejecting it, you're missing out on it, right? It can't do nothing for you.
Right.
So you don't understand what God has given you in that place that you can bring to life as a believer, right? All these things that God has, it's like things that are buried in the ground, and there's gold there, or there's treasure, but you got to go look for it, but it's there in your land, right?
Yeah.
And if you don't have, who are you trusting in? If God says, I've put stuff there, right? I've given you what you need, but you got to go find it. You got to go dig deep for it, right? You're going to be able to find that stuff, but the problem is we're like, oh, there's nothing there. This land is hard. Like, see how what we're doing? We're complaining.
Yep.
We're whining.
Yep.
And we were never free. America was never great. Like, when were we ever great? Like, all these things.
Yeah.
It's the opposite. You're turning stuff into, and then it becomes, as Christians, oh, we shouldn't. we shouldn't care about this country. We should care more about doing stuff in the country, and trying to get, I'm trying to think of the right word. We should be looking at how we're marginalized and trying to get equity, right?
Yeah, right.
But
Or reparations.
well, any of that stuff. But if we go back to the beginning, again, when was this country founded, right? On what principles? What does the Constitution say? What does the Declaration of Independence say, right? And in that, we can bring those words to life through Christ, right? Because really, if these words were brought forth, okay, God, how can you work with what was brought forth? You get what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, we can bring God into that. But if we think there's nothing there for us, there's no life. We can't bring life there. And that's my biggest issue, is that when we turn away, right, this country is nothing. We're slaves. We're brought here as slaves. It's nothing. There's nothing here for us. We're just here, and we got to figure out how to live here. That's hopeless.
Yeah.
Or when it's like, no, God did something here. Yeah, it wasn't perfect. God used people. Yeah, they weren't perfect, right? But he used people here. How can we take what he's done and then bring it to perfection through Christ?
Yeah, man. I mean, and then talking about nations and empires and stuff like that, like that's all throughout the Bible.
Yeah.
God talking about nations and empires and building kingdoms, like that's all throughout the Bible. So it is biblical.
Yeah. And I think that's what people are going to do. That's the nature of fallen man.
Mm-hmm.
Fallen man's going to do that. But that's why the church is so important in what it's called. What is the church? It's ecclesia, right?
Yep.
So the ecclesia is a government, right, that meets together and agrees on things. Whatever you loose on heaven will be loose on earth, right?
Yep.
Or whatever you loose on earth will be loose in heaven. Whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven. We're learning how to agree with the right things and how to reject the wrong things. We're learning how to discern between good and evil. If we accept evil and call evil good, which is what we do a lot of times and we don't even know it, then we're going to allow these things into our life and we think they're good. That's what the devil wants. He's looking to make us think that what is good is evil and what is evil is good. And then we accept these things into our lives. And then we reject the things that God is like, no, I'm trying to get you to see this. I'm trying to get you to see that I've already placed things and you just got to look for them to raise them up, right? From the dead.
Yep. All right. You want to continue playing this?
Yeah, we can.
Okay.
Anything for uniformity. You're going to be Romans. You're going to speak like we want you to speak, act like we want you to act. You're going to comply. Or it's off with your head. That's what the empire does. Kingdom says we want unity. We want every nation, every tongue, every tribe to have, their unique voices and views, but functioning in a way that is God honoring. You got Jesus talking to the crowds who says, render to Caesar what's his. Like, give him his stuff. Jesus is not patriotic to Rome, and he doesn't satisfy Rome's patriotism, and he doesn't satisfy the Pharisees' hatred of the powers of Rome when he says, render to Caesar what's Caesar's. Well, whose side are you on? Whose side are you on, Jesus? My Father's side. I think in the empire, the logic there is to secure power, is to control the narrative, is to silence your enemies, and is to win at all costs. It's win, win, win. What a lot of Christians say as far as getting involved in a culture war, the example they use is Jesus turning over tables, right? He's a table flipper. That's what he'd do. But those weren't Rome's tables, right? Jesus had some harsh critiques, but that's when he was cleaning house. That's when he was dealing with his own. And that's what we don't do in the culture war. You rarely hear people critique their own and say, no, we're messing up here. We got to cut that out, right? We're not going to be violent. We're not going to be arrogant. We're not going to be divisive. We're not going to be hateful. We're going to be caring and we're going to be loving. You don't hear us challenging ourselves that way, right? We're trying to challenge the other.
Huh?
I think he's wrong there.
I was thinking that as he's saying it. Like, I've seen people actively speaking out against this all the time.
Yeah.
I definitely see people saying we can't be violent. We can't resort to violence. We can't resort to, not moving like Christians. Yeah. So
I think we have been challenging. We have been challenging the culture even within the church, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the problem is that you see what's rising up because of that. And you're going to get people who are more like connected to their flesh side of offense and, where they're going to get offended and they're going to want to lash out. You got the whole black fatigue, or these stupid fatigue things that people are coming up with. Which only causes more division.
Yep.
So yeah, that stuff's gonna happen, and you can't stop that from happening, but you can stand on the truth. And I think there's been a lot. I think that's what Charlie Kirk was literally doing.
Yeah.
If you look at his the memorial, where was the divisiveness in that?
Right.
I didn't really hear. If you look at I watched the whole thing. Where was the divisiveness?
You're talking about coming from the event. The divisiveness was coming from the outside.
Yeah.
Coming from the speakers, I'm saying.
The most you could give it to was Trump being Trump, when he would talk about, the radical left, and when he said, "I hate my enemies."
Yeah. But he was giving credit to Charlie. Charlie said, "Love your enemies."
Yeah.
Well, I don't. I hate my enemies.
And I don't want the best for them.
It was being funny.
Yeah. But yeah, I agree. The main gist of the entire memorial was giving honor to Christ.
Yeah.
Literally, Erica coming out there talking about forgiveness, actually challenging men and women to be prepare themselves to be husbands and wives. Like that was the sentiment of the entire event.
They were praising for hours. It was just praise and worship for hours.
So where was the stuff he's talking about? Or even
I see it more in the other churches that were critical, that were, spewing the rhetoric that we've been talking about. I see it more there, what he's talking about.
And I do see one thing that I have an issue with, where people are writing a lot of YouTube creators like, why haven't you said something about Charlie Kirk? Like, I think, people, that stuff is uncalled for.
Yeah,
right?
And it's not necessary.
That's emotional.
Yeah.
I
demand you speak about this topic. Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah. That's wild. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. You definitely see that this moment, this is why it's like when people say, oh, you can't stop trying to make him a martyr. Like, no, like this moment has impacted everything. This moment has shifted something. It's awakened something. It's revealed so many things. Like, there's no stopping it at this point. And, that's why these conversations are happening. That's why people are having visions like he had. I saw other people talking about dreams that they had. We're watching all these people come to church for the first time, talking about they got had an encounter with Jesus, like people that didn't even believe in God. So to me, it's like there's no denying what's happening here. We just got to stay in prayer. That's why I asked all of y'all where you see this country headed, because I knew all of y'all were going to say we need to pray. And it's funny how they mentioned later on in the conversation that people don't want to pray, but we're trying to put that message out there that it's important. This nation needs it. We need to constantly get people refocused and point them back to Jesus, man, because all of this other rhetoric, this divisiveness, this trying to stir everyone up into hating each other, that's the only way we're going to counteract this. But, man, I want to... Go ahead, Jake.
Can you play the one clip I gave you from X?
Yes, the one with the girl preaching.
Yeah, just because it kind of gives you a context. Because I think a lot of people, even when I was listening to Jackie O'Perry talk about the martyr thing, I think people don't even have context to understand why Charlie Kirk was doing what he was doing.
Yeah,
if that makes sense. Like,
yeah,
because we put it in the wrong type of context.
Right. Or they put the framing around it that makes sense to them. Like he was doing it just like the one guy said, he was doing it to be provocative and to be, to get clicks and stuff. Mm-hmm. All right. So this will be a great way to wrap up. We'll play this clip and then call it a night. Here we go. Pull it up, Mom, please. Okay.
If you're a Christian, you got to watch this.
Stop calling this man a martyr. He was killed for his political beliefs. Some people think that being a martyr has to do with the location of your ministry. Charlie was just preaching in college campuses, talking to students. Do you somehow believe that makes him not someone who is fulfilling the call of God on his life? Just take a look at this. Acts 19 is describing the ministry of Paul in Ephesus. He gets the disciples reasoning daily in the hall of Tyrannus. And this continued for 2 years so that all the residents of Asia heard the word of the Lord. The hall of Tyrannus was a Greek school where people would go, like a college today, to learn intellectual topics and to debate what is true. And Paul says, I'm going to spend the next 2 years debating every single day with all of these unbelievers. Does that remind you of anybody? Oh, Charlie Kirk wasn't a martyr because he was out doing things in schools and colleges. Hello? He was doing the work of the Lord. He was imitating Paul. You know what, Paul? It's not very Christ-like of you to debate. You know, Paul did not spend those 2 years. We wouldn't have verse 10. Because of this, all the residents of Asia heard the word of the Lord, both Jews and Gentiles. If Paul kept the message in the synagogues, all of Asia would not have heard the truth of the gospel. I wonder how many atheists and transgenders, people who hate God, heard the truth because of Charlie Kirk, because he went out into colleges and universities preaching the truth relentlessly every single day. And we need to pick up the mantle and take the word of God out into the center of culture. God didn't give us the word of God to keep in the four walls of the church. How many pastors, if Paul was to have gotten assassinated for causing controversy among the Greeks, how many pastors would have stayed silent?